Rabbi Samuel Levine was a man deeply rooted in his faith and traditions. As a scholar of the Torah and the Talmud, his days were filled with rigorous study, teaching and guiding his congregation on their spiritual journeys. To Rabbi Levine, the concept of the Messiah was central to his beliefs. Like many in his community, he envisioned the Messiah as a future savior who would restore Israel, bring justice to the nations, and establish an everlasting kingdom of peace. Little did he know his understanding of the Messiah was about to be challenged in ways he could never have imagined. One autumn evening, after a long day of teaching, Rabbi Levine felt an unusual heaviness in his chest. He dismissed it as fatigue and continued reviewing his notes for the next day's study session. But the discomfort worsened, and within moments, he collapsed. His family rushed him to the hospital, but his heart had already stopped. For what seemed like an eternity, Rabbi Levine was enveloped in darkness. Then suddenly he found himself standing in a realm that defied description. The air was alive with a sense of peace and love, and the light surrounding him was unlike anything he had ever seen, brilliant, warm, and somehow alive. As he took in his surroundings, Rabbi Levine became aware of a presence approaching him. A figure emerged, radiant and majestic, yet carrying an aura of humility and gentleness. The rabbi felt an overwhelming sense of reverence and awe. This was no ordinary being. "Welcome, Samuel," the figure said, his voice resonating with power yet filled with compassion. "Who are you?" Rabbi Levine asked, his voice trembling. "I am the Messiah," the figure replied, his words both shocking and comforting. Rabbi Levine's mind raced. This couldn't be possible. The Messiah was supposed to come at the end of days, heralded by great signs and wonders. The Messiah was to restore Israel and defeat the enemies of God. Yet, here he was, standing in a place beyond comprehension, being told he was in the presence of the one he had awaited his entire life. "You cannot be," Rabbi Levine said, shaking his head. "The Messiah has not yet come. The world is still broken, and Israel has not been restored." The figure smiled, a smile filled with infinite patience. "You have spent your life searching for the truth, Samuel. Now let me show you what you have missed." In an instant, the world around them transformed. Rabbi Levine found himself standing in a bustling marketplace in ancient Judea. He saw a man teaching a group of people, his words filled with wisdom and authority. As the rabbi watched, he realized the man was performing miracles, healing the sick, giving sight to the blind, and even raising the dead. "Who is this man?" Rabbi Levine asked. "This is me," the Messiah replied. "This is when I walked among you, fulfilling the prophecies you have studied so diligently." Rabbi Levine's heart pounded. He had read the prophecies of Isaiah, the promises of a suffering servant who would bear the sins of many. He had studied the Psalms that spoke of a righteous one who would be rejected. Could it be that these scriptures had already been fulfilled? "But why did you suffer?" the rabbi asked, his voice tinged with confusion and sorrow. "The Messiah is supposed to be a king, not a servant." "The kingdom I came to establish is not of this world," the Messiah explained. "My suffering was necessary to bring redemption to all people. Through my sacrifice, the door to reconciliation with God was opened." Rabbi Levine was then shown another vision, a vision of the cross. He saw the Messiah nailed to the wood, his body broken, his face etched with pain. Yet, even in that moment of agony, his eyes radiated love and forgiveness. Rabbi Levine felt the weight of the moment, the enormity of the sacrifice. Tears streamed down his face. How could we have missed this? How could we not have seen? "The truth was always there, hidden in plain sight," the Messiah said gently. "But many were blinded by their expectations, their traditions, and their pride. Even today, many still do not see." The scene shifted again. This time, Rabbi Levine saw people from every nation, tribe, and language. They were gathered together in worship, their faces glowing with joy. They sang songs of praise, proclaiming the Messiah as the Savior of the world. Among them were Jews and Gentiles, united in a way Rabbi Levine had never thought possible. "This is the kingdom I am building," the Messiah said. "A kingdom of hearts transformed by love and grace. It is not bound by borders or limited to one people. It is for all who believe and follow me." Rabbi Levine's heart ached as he thought of his own congregation, his community, and the many debates he had participated in about the coming of the Messiah. How many were still waiting, unaware that the promise had already been fulfilled? "You must go back, Samuel," the Messiah said, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Your journey is not yet complete. Share what you have seen. Tell them the truth about me. Some will listen, and others will not. But do not be discouraged, for every seed you plant will bear fruit in its time." Before Rabbi Levine could respond, the light around him began to fade. He felt himself being pulled back, and the next thing he knew, he was gasping for breath in a hospital bed. His family surrounded him, their faces etched with relief and worry. In the days and weeks that followed, Rabbi Levine struggled to put his experience into words. How could he explain what he had seen? How could he convey the truth about the Messiah to those who had spent their lives waiting for someone else? He began to study the scriptures anew, this time with the perspective he had gained during his near-death experience. He saw connections he had never noticed before, prophecies fulfilled in ways he had never imagined. Slowly he began to share his story with others. At first, many were skeptical. Some accused him of abandoning his faith, while others dismissed his experience as a hallucination. But there were those who listened, who felt a stirring in their hearts and began to seek the truth for themselves. Rabbi Levine dedicated the rest of his life to bridging the gap between tradition and revelation. He continued to honor the rich heritage of his faith while sharing the message of the Messiah with humility and love. Through his testimony, many came to see the Messiah in a new light, not just as a future king, but as a present Savior. For Rabbi Levine, his near-death experience was not just a personal revelation. It was a mission, a calling to bring the truth to those still waiting in hope.